This is a Java class named Hanoi Board, which extends the JPanel class. num_disks, an integer representing the number of disks in the game. num_rods, an integer representing the number of rods in the game. Rods, an array of stacks of integers representing the rods in the game. Source rod, an integer representing the currently selected source rod. Selected source rod, an integer representing the previously selected source rod. Source rod history, a stack of integers representing the history of source rod selections. Target rod history, a stack of integers representing the history of target rod selections. Undone source rod history, a stack of integers representing the history of undone source rod selections. Undone target rod history, a stack of integers representing the history of undone target rod selections. On-win listener, a runnable representing a listener to be notified when the game is won. Move count, an integer representing the number of moves made in the game. Hanoi Board, int number disks, int number rods, a constructor that initializes the game with the given number of disks and rods. It calls the initializeRods method to initialize the rods array. Methods. InitializeRods, a private method that initializes the rods array with empty stacks and pushes the disks onto the first rod. MoveDisk, int rod index, a method that moves a disk from the selected source rod to the target rod if the move is valid. It increments the move count field and stores the move and history stacks. It also checks if the game is won and notifies the on-win listener if it is. Reset, a method that resets the game by calling the initializeRods method, resetting the move count field, and clearing the history stacks. Set on-win listener, runnable on-win listener, a method that sets the on-win listener field to the given runnable. IsGameWon, a private method that checks if the game is won by checking if all the disks are on the last rod. Set difficulty, int number disks, a method that sets the difficulty of the game by changing the number of disks and calling the initializeRods method. Paint component, graphics G, an overridden method that paints the game board. It calculates the dimensions of the disks and rods based on the size of the panel and draws the disks and rods using the graphics object. This is a Java class named Hanoi Frame, which extends the JFrame class. It represents the main frame of the Towers of Hanoi game and contains a graphical user interface for the game. Window_width, a final integer representing the width of the frame. Window_height, a final integer representing the height of the frame. Hanoi Board, a Hanoi Board object representing the game board. Move count label, a JLabel object representing the label displaying the number of moves made in the game. Hanoi Frame, int number disks, int number rods, a constructor that initializes the game frame with the given number of disks and rods. It sets the title, size, and close operation of the frame. It creates a Hanoi Board object and adds it to the center of the frame. It creates and adds several control buttons and a move count label to the top and bottom of the frame, respectively. Show help dialog, a private method that displays a dialog with instructions on how to play the game. Show difficulty dialog, a private method that displays a dialog for setting the difficulty of the game. Update move count, a private method that updates the move count label with the current number of moves. This is a Java class named Hanoi, which contains a main method. The main method is the entry point of the program and is called when the program is run. It creates a Hanoi frame object named Hanoi frame with the initial configuration of 3 disks and 3 rods by calling its constructor with the arguments 3 and 3. It then sets the frame visible by calling its setVisible method with the argument true.